It's exactly what it looks like.
Welcome, my friends, to another wonderful day of us having more adventure time in our lives. Reminding us all of a childhood lost and how no matter what happens, Karen still will try and make everything worse.
Jumped up, Abadir.
Fionna and Cake Season 2 is finally out, and yes, the sensation that none of us expected to be as good as it was is back again, and given where things left off, I came in with very high hopes. Some of them weren't Hunter and Huntress related, but regardless, it's delivering on every front. From proving my initial theories correct, to setting up a filthy love triangle that will somehow become a square, because Fern is here. And she's dating DJ Flame. Not to mention the lingering mysteries from Season 1 finally getting answered, like what the hell is going on with Finn and HW, and this series is teasing the hell out of it.
Wait, those two are back on again?
Now, to be clear, this review will be spoiler-free for like 10 seconds. It's good. If you like the first season, you'll like this. It doesn't have the same immediate hook as the other premiere, but given how we know it's gonna be quality, I can't fault them for indulging in a slower start. If you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch it. Or watch me watch it on my second channel, Sarcastic IRL. Everything after this will be spoilers, so yes, I have been a liar. I said there was no hook, but there actually is. Finn is dying, and HW is getting jumped by what I think is her family.
Blood everywhere! Cool.
So we can't fully dive into my thoughts on this premiere without first answering the biggest question 3 of you probably are asking. Is this a cash grab? As let's be real, IPs never die. And it's only by the miracle that Adventure Time's creative team has remained mostly consistent throughout the years that the series has managed to feel like it's evolving rather than getting hoarded out for relevancy. Fionna and Cake could have bombed hard if all it was just a reskin of Adventure Time trying to tell the same adventures in basically the same manner, but with a new cast of characters to play around with. What we got instead was a unique take on the series, doing what Adventure Time has always been great at, which is taking the absolutely insane statements of the character and making them actually brilliant in context. Like PB saying she has an uncle, only for it to turn out that she has no family, as we would understand it. So rather than retconning that line, they create a strange, interesting story about how she created her own uncle and how that experience shaped her into the princess we met at the start of the series. Adventure Time is on this Venture Brothers grind of not trying to reinvent itself or getting trapped in power scaling hell. Instead, it just knows its lane and chooses depth over spectacle, which is part of what has allowed it to run as long as it has so well. We're invested in the characters, not just the plot. So them announcing Season 2 had me pretty confident that even if they did originally plan to end things in Season 1, they could easily pick up the pieces, find a thread we didn't realize was loose, then weave a brand new insane adventure for us as only Adventure Time can. But even with all that said, it is pretty obvious that this season was planned from the start.
Huntress Wizard calls it the heart of the forest.
Truly, they would not have dropped something so specific as a magical creature who is green and wearing a mask unless they had plans for it in the future. It's so devious and obvious that I might as well call it machinations, though I do think the only thing that's slightly pushing it is how us having to imagine that all the cuts from the brambles, yeah, that does make sense, but also looks so much like bear claws that it is almost cheating. Speaking of cheating, the Huntress Wizards.
Down is eligible for a 3-way.
Man, did I have a different idea of where this was going. So just to cover what's going on with Finn first, bro is not okay. He is poisoned and dying. The heart of the forest is either magical or radioactive, and either way, after a lifetime of adventuring, Finn is about to go out like a lame ending from the Oregon Trail. Death by bush. With it turning out that Finn going off to see Huntress Wizard wasn't a sign that they've been, dating this entire time. No, turns out that they've been on and off the last couple years, as proven by Marceline's immediate surprise that Finn went to go see HW. So despite being the final girl, it turns out she's been the final one a few different times. But more interesting than their relationship status is the fact that Finn, he may have talked a big game about being fine from the flesh wounds, but given how he wasn't able to make it to HW's place and ended up crashing in a cave, he's in a rough shape to say the least. And the more depressing answer to all this is that he did make it to where he was going. He's been hallucinating the animals were Huntress Wizard for longer than he was being sick. which, while very messed up and very worrying for his mental health, that would make somewhat sense given the fact that these animals are already trained and that he was able to train them without just devoting all of his energy into training that eagle to carry a message to just anyone to come help his ass if he was actually trapped here. Also, that's a vampire king, isn't it? Like when he's not hot and shredded. I love how Finn's stats are so min-maxed he can do basically anything but process grief. But yeah, his body is broken, and it's only through luck and HW hunting the lion that she's able to stumble upon his battered body, where she realizes that her man is cooked. Just like her voice.
Have you been training animals to feed you? Finn?
So for those who didn't immediately realize something was up, Fionna and Cake continue the weird tradition of not being able to get back key voice actors, with Huntress Wizard, Gary, and Marshall Lee all having been replaced, which is crazy because they're like half of the supporting cast. This is not a bunch of random extras in the background who you probably wouldn't notice. These are all key players, even the main character, and we couldn't get back the original actors. And honestly, at this point, I just feel like this series is slightly cursed in this regard. We don't know why this happened. It's certainly not a Prismo case where their agent suddenly decided one Marvel movie made Kumail Nanjiani just too good for a cartoon, but it is likely rather than fully money, a lot of the actors just weren't available. Donald Glover was apparently sick when they were recording. The man had to leave his tour, so you know it's bad, and it's just strange, TBH. HW is going to take a second to get used to. Marshall Lee is a little bit less sexy sounding, but he still sounds pretty good. The only one that's actually truly jarring for me is weirdly Gary. And I think it's especially weird for him as this man has had a new voice every time we met him. Personally, Andrew Randall's from season 1 is my fave so far, as I think that extra level of neurotic energy just really fit Gary to a T.
Low and steady. Beautiful.
So Huntress Wizard found her adventurer buddy with benefits. We don't actually know if they're officially together at this point or if he was seeking medical attention, but she finds him, drags him back to her place, where everything she tries doesn't work, leaving her at a loss for how to treat this. Okay, we know that he isn't gonna die because of distant lands, but let's pretend for a second that this is cause for concern. This all leads her to a search for Simon on what the fuck happened, giving us a neat little peek into Oo's local dark academia, featuring Kadabra, Peppermint Butler, and...
Do you not know who I am?
Should I?
Okay, it's Blaine. They're all here, it's been a couple years, and they're all teenagers, with them naturally bullying the sub, who is Simon.
And I already give you the facts.
Whoa, Simon! You're teaching a class about yourself?
Now, say what you will about the excitement of seeing HW and all these characters again, I will admit that just knowing that her entire storyline here is just her trying to piece together what us Tylenol heads already just remembered, that Finn was probably poisoned by the heart of the forest, that the bear probably wasn't a bear, leaving it to feel like the Green Queen is playing catch-up for most of her screen time. It's all set up for her going to the forest to find a cure for Finn, and probably being sent on some wild quest to save him, which will probably involve teaming up with Fionna. While this premiere is a bit on the slower side, overall I think that is the right call. As, to be blunt, shit was kind of wild last season.
I'm gonna tear down Prismo's precious sandcastle with my bare hands!
Fionna nearly lost her world, Simon met his ex, the characters were put through the ringer, so it's nice to see the hard-earned peace of mind they won wasn't just for nothing. They still have problems, like we'll see with Fionna, but on the whole, everyone seems to be moving to a place of contentment. They went through hell but chose peace, so they all deserve to enjoy it just a little bit. We don't know exactly how long it's been, could be anywhere from a few days to a few months, and the time frame only really matters as it pertains to how long the blondes have been living in squalor, which, if I may be so bold to put on my theory-making hat on why Huntress Wizard is the perfect foil for this season, it's pretty simple.
I worry that hard meat don't get eat.
Already made a prediction video about this, and by the looks of things, I might just have been dead on the money. But to summarize, if HW is gonna be the Simon of this season, the second main protagonist that'll have an arc to parallel Fiona's, then the easiest parallel to draw to really make Fionna question her life choices is to focus on how Fionna picked the quiet life. that yes, she realized how much of her small world actually mattered to her, but given how traumatic her experiences were, like she was adventuring through the worst AUs, when she was just a normal dame with no training, it would make sense that she would not want to go back to that life at first. Now that she's had a little time to process and is dealing with some frustrating real-world problems that make her feel powerless, the desire to have that power fantasy to feel strong could easily come creeping back. As yes, she wants to slap the buns off of this bitch.
But deep down, you know, you're a true loser.
But she can't just do that, as she chose a mundane, normal life, which makes HW the perfect foil, as she has spent her entire life avoiding peace.
If I ever find what I'm looking for, I'll become soft and I'll cease to matter in this world.
What?
From the time we first met her, HW doesn't like the idea of growing soft. She wants to remain a badass over everything else. She is roughing it in the woods, avoiding anything that might make her too happy, as becoming content in her mind would cause her to lose her edge. This is the original stated reason for why she doesn't think it'll work out between her and Finn. She eventually got over this, but only in the sense that, yeah, but she never overcomes the fear of growing soft, and this whole part of her is left unquestioned by the main series. I theorized in my video that we might see HW be forced to tackle her desire to remain strong, and if it was actually worth keeping those she loved at a distance. So her meeting Fionna, who chose a normal life, would make her the antithesis of everything HW stands for, with HW also providing an example of what Fionna could be if she ever gave up the normal life to become an adventurer again. With this premiere only adding more fuel to this fire, as we see that HW and Finn haven't had the most consistent situationship. It's hot gossip to Marceline that Finn would be seeing HW, though the craziest bit of info here is that the Luddite owns a phone. But things between them have not blossomed into something more, which might be what Finn was looking for since bro is trying to fill the void left by Jake. Meanwhile, Fionna is having to face the old frustrations of adulting. It would then make sense why Fionna has that berserk power fantasy of just chopping people apart, but then the consequences of which are concerning. It's foreshadowing horror, and that somehow Choose Goose is related to all of it. I think HW and Fionna need to meet. There's a lot of juicy material to be mined here. As long story short, I just think it's gonna be fire no matter what. Kinda like Fionna's ex.
DJ Flame!
So before we get into the heat, we gotta talk about Fionna's current situation. She's still at her old place and she still hasn't cleaned her room. Yeah, this place is a disaster, which isn't a problem, ignoring the massive hole in the wall. What actually blows my mind about her still being here is that Cake has her own place, which if you peek in real close, doesn't have a fat hole in it. I know we're supporting Cake through her strong, independent, suddenly a woman era, but maybe, just maybe, we should give Fionna a structurally safe place to live till she figures out how to pay rent. But besides that, in contrast to how things were before, life is mostly going kinda good for her. She still has all the same problems as she did at the start of season 1. Her place is still a mess. She's trying to avoid thinking about her ex, Queenie sucks, but overall, she is approaching things with a more optimistic attitude. Fionna is happy to be here even as she dreams of something stranger. This is the life she chose, and for the moment, she's happy with that. And I'm personally happy as well, as I do really like Fionna's world. I'm surprised how little we actually saw it in season 1 besides Gary and Marshall Lee's part, but here to see all these characters, all these human AUs of gender-swapped fanfic, I think it's always a delight to see these different variations on very, very familiar characters. With Fionna enjoying it as well, even as she's catching strays.
If you had this kind of hustle before, I would have kept you on.
Well, fuck you too.
Ma'am, could you please be a little bit less out of pocket, and can the cat actually just be doing all of this work? Yes, Fionna is happier than she was before. However, I like the added touch of how, yes, people prefer how she used to be, and that is getting under her skin, as it's creating this before and after type mentality where Fionna says she used to suck back then, people agree to that, leaving her in a place where any reminder of how she used to be now feels like a put down, especially since those backhanded compliments don't come with a thank you for saving the world money. As this girl is still broke, helping her broke friends who are then robbed by Fionna's #1 hater.
This total deadbeat, Fionna Campbell.
You know, I really wish Cake didn't hold Fionna back, as I need her to slap this woman. She is talking way too much trash for too little reward, and it feels like the only reason she claimed this place a la Marceline is to be petty, robbing Gary of his dream bakery, Marshall of his place, and Fionna of her peace of mind. Though again, why Cake didn't just sock these bouncers is beyond me, as she's magical. She can take all of these people, let the legal consequences be damned. As this woman does seem to be disliked by most people, making popular opinion very easy to court in this case. Though given how Queenie does go, she does set up a little bit of like, oh, people are only gonna like you for a little bit of time. And that does lead me to think that we might see people turn on Fionna in the future. That or it's gonna be a constant worry of Fionna that's gonna check her behavior for a little bit of the season. This woman is awful, and of course it's the normal annoying villains that are just so much more grating than the over-the-top evil ones. But besides that woman, we also see a bunch of other fun things around town. Fiona's trying to fulfill Gary's shopping list with what little money she has left, with the funniest parts being Madam Slicer, which is a whole blast of nostalgia, and the fact that Kate is trying to get with M-Crom.
Thank you.
Wild to me. Not because it's happening, just because...
That is an animal.
He has to know, right? He has to know Cake is a cat. Jake was able to trick people in the past, but the full muzzle and tail feels like a dead giveaway that she's not human. And people are still getting used to the fact that these things exist. Maybe he just thinks she's a furry like him, so it'll work out. But this whole situation is cute, but it is very silly. Especially with how Cake could look like anything and still decide to be 5'0".
Okay.
Just decided to be a shorty for no reason other than a love of climbing. Fair. But the meet cute is adorable, she got his number, and I'm just waiting to see like how much M-Crom actually knows here. As by Prismo's rules and Jake's horny, Cake and Lord Monochrome were endgame in the original fanfic. So it will be interesting to see if this is something that the story is gonna play around with. That not every character is gonna end up with who they were in the fanfic, or the fact that Cake is a magical cat might prove to be an actual deal breaker. I have another running theory that over time everyone's gonna start getting their memories back from the other worlds, but that thing's kinda up in the air. Kind of like Fionna's love life.
You're bleeding.
Huh.
I swear to God, if they have Fionna end up in a love triangle or square, or just say fuck it and make them all poly, I'm gonna laugh my ass off, as the show might as well have just personally written me a check. Which, given how this episode is putting a lot of emphasis on Fionna's love life, as she is trying to avoid reminders of her ex, who broke up with her via text, mind you. Cake is destroying flyers for his show, Fionna finds Gary's bougie ingredient under chocolate hearts, and Hunter is just here, bringing her roses.
Excuse me, may I rake your leaves?
Like, the show's clearly setting up something. The only question is how important will this actually end up being? As if we're being real, this could all stop mattering after episode 3 and they replace the opening. Though my biggest reach for this scene in particular, besides the fact that I do adore these two together, I think the symbolism of Fionna getting these flowers, it's not really just, oh, he's into her, but it's in the next moment where she's so smitten she doesn't realize her hand is cut, and he plucks the thorn out of it. Said thorn mimicking Finn's grass arm, which would match with the timing of how Finn got over Flame Princess, grew as a person, and ended up with Huntress Wizard. Just like Fionna is probably gonna end up with Hunter. Though she may have to be just like Finn and have her whole lover boy era. Those cuts also resemble Finn's gaping flesh wounds, so while the worlds aren't connected anymore, events in the Land of Oo might in some ways still be reflected in this one. Or the writers just want to parallel the two couples. Also, this just occurred to me while recording, but the flowers Hunter brings is definitely gonna be the thing that cures Finn. Also, Marshall is a massive bro for setting the mood here, and pushing Fionna just go after that.
You gonna walk H home?
No, are you?
Fionna is going through some minor things right now. Nothing seems to be too much trouble, despite Gary's place getting stolen. But I think overall, this really contributes to the idea that Fionna, she didn't really fix all of her problems from the beginning of season 1. She has a more positive attitude of her life and like her place in the world, but she's still very much broke. She isn't over her ex, has unresolved sexual tension with the beefcake gardener, and while she may have saved the world, Fionna is still taking mental damage from people's comments. comments. Girl is in a better place and more grateful for it, yet she still has a lot to work on, and the added pressure of being the hero is only going to add to that stress this 20-something-year-old is finding herself in. She succeeded, but there's still a massive fucking hole in her wall that she hasn't bothered to fix. I love her, but this girl procrastinates.
But I'm in a better place now.
Simon has moved in with Marceline and PB. Adorable, fun, and oh my god, I forgot he killed Choose Goose.
Dude.
Overall, I think this was a fine start to a new season. Not a whole lot is happening, but it's the right way to start a season based on how the last one ended. Yes, I do wish they revealed whether or not Finn's farm world Finn was still alive to make Jay's choice make a whole lot more sense, but I appreciate like all the little touches, from the opening being the little girl who loved Fionna and Cake's stories, retelling the events from season 1, allowing the idea of like, oh, fan fiction to continue and spread like the plague and joy that it is, to us constantly seeing all the gender bent versions in the background. The new opening is beautifully animated. Oh my god, she's naked. You know, I might have to do an opening breakdown, but this might just get me demonetized on its own. This episode was enjoyable. I am ecstatic to be back in this world again, as it is simply far too long. But it's here, it'll be dropping once a week till December, so look forward to all my weekly reviews and reactions to said episodes. And before you ask how I'm still alive after editing 2 things in a night, Papa got screeners, but I am going to be watching them only one at a time and writing the reviews as I go. Helps preserve the authenticity of the review and theory crafting experience. So tell me what you all thought down below. I'll mentally be tracking who is right and who is not. Were you also living for Marshall labeling his estranged mother birth giver? Where do you think the story will go after this, and how will it connect to Fionna and Huntress? Subscribe to my everything, catch up on my Fionna Cake reviews on my compilation channel. I know I'm throwing a lot of people, but I'm trying to step up my game as we enter the final part of the year, where I get paid the most.